Hello everybody, my name is Esther Altshul. This is a short introduction for the testimony video below. Going forward, I want to apologize for the sound quality in this introduction. My microphone is having issues today linking to my cell phone. If you're here because you saw one of us protesting the mandates and you were given a card, please watch the testimony video below. We cannot link a YouTube video as our testimony has been banned from YouTube, as it has a testimony of nurses all across America, besides a few who play into the ploy of Big Pharma. Therefore, we have linked the video via Rumble, BitChute, and Dailymotion. The testimony is my own as a nurse during the 2020 pandemic, but I am just one of the nurses here at Friends from Zion. If you would like to work for us or become one of our protesters, you can find more info of how to do so on this website. As you know, we are protesting the vaccine mandates. Some people claim that there are no longer any mandates and we can just go back to work, but this is not true. I am one of thousands of nurses who were kicked out of nursing school for not being vaccinated. We were denied our degrees, left in debt, and have nothing to show for our hard work because of a cruel government mandate. We spent 4 years in intense study and went into considerable debt to pay for nursing classes. However, I and my friends were kicked out only a few months before graduation for refusing to take the COVID vaccination. 30% of our class was kicked out. None of our nursing credits are transferable. We were supposed to graduate as registered nurses. Instead, we were kicked out and left with nothing. The week before we were kicked out of nursing school, I was also fired from Garnet Health Medical Center, where I worked in the hospital's ICU and COVID unit during the height of the pandemic. I worked face-to-face with COVID-positive patients without any issues. Then the COVID-19 vaccine was mandated. The hospital did not even inform me that I could not finish my internship. They simply deactivated my card key so I could not sign in when I arrived at work because I refused the vaccine. Before you say that I deserve to be kicked out of nursing school for not being vaccinated, let me let you know that I have a full exemption to all vaccines from the VA since 2015 after a severe reaction to the MMR that left me with Guillain-Barré and Bell palsy. Still, these medical exemptions were not honored, violating the Americans with Disability Acts. Yes, I'm also a veteran and served in the U.S. Army for 2 years as a medic. All the nurses who refused the vaccine were similarly fired. This was the thanks the hospital gave those who worked in their COVID units during the pandemic. We were discriminated against by administration and government with a strong bias against the unvaccinated. I and my friends were certified to draw blood, give IVs, change internal feeding tubes, dress wounds, traction broken bones, cric emergency airways, make RN diagnoses, understand all the meds, insert catheters, run and read EKGs, but now it all doesn't mean anything. I and thousands of nurses and doctors will never be able to work from these jobs again due to losing credentials and also because of the trauma of being betrayed so thoroughly. Still, the hospitals had the gall to complain of short staffing when they were the ones who enforced immoral, murderous mandates. The news said hospitals were overwhelmed, people having to sit in the waiting room for 14 hours before being seen, surgeries being performed in hallways, people dying before being treated. This was all the result of mandates. That was the reason for the deaths, not because of the unvaxxed. There were no more good nurses or doctors to care for the sick because they were all fired. My uncle died of a heart attack at home after waiting 14 hours to be seen at a hospital, but was sent away without receiving any care. His death could have easily been prevented. My own father died of a blood clot only weeks after receiving a COVID vaccine. The world lost an uncountable number of healthcare workers because of the mandates. The reason the government did this could only be that they wanted people to die to jack the numbers up. The hospitals didn't care as the new protocols made them millions. When I worked as a nurse during the pandemic, I routinely saw trauma victims with COVID listed as their reason for death, when it clearly wasn't. It was never about keeping people safe or healthy. It was about money. Nurses who worked with COVID patients during the height of the pandemic were called frontline heroes, but then those same nurses were cruelly fired and had their lives ruined by the mandates. At any moment, a group of people can be unfairly targeted, demonized, and then persecuted by Big Pharma. This kind of power should not be tolerated. We must fight Big Pharma and demand our rights back. What we want. The following are conditions we want met to compensate the student nurses who were kicked out of school for not being vaccinated. We will not stop protesting until these terms are met. Term number 1. We want to be allowed back into the nursing program where we left off before we were kicked out for not being vaccinated, or for those who successfully completed 1 year in the RN program, we want to be allowed to challenge a NCLEX and be given LPN qualification. RN students used to be allowed to challenge a NCLEX and become LPNs in New York State, and we ask for this privilege again. Number 2. We want a complete forgiveness of the loans of the nursing students who were forced to drop out of college due to not taking the COVID vaccine, as well as a refund of the money they spent on tuition. Side note as of 2024. After we were fired from working in the ICUs and COVID units for not being vaccinated, many nurses turned to food stamps to help them make ends meet. 2 years later, many of these nurses, including myself, were then told by DSS that we must pay back these food stamps or else liens would be put on our homes. How are we supposed to pay back a whole year of food stamps? How is this any different than the 1941 posters put up in the Vilna ghetto of Lithuania that promised the Jews 3 kilograms of bread and 1 kilogram of jam if they would temporarily resettle? The offer of food lured thousands of starving Jews. Most of these Jews were sent to prepared funeral pits in the Ponar forest, 4 miles from the city. At the pits, the Jews were forced to undress, ordered to climb down, and were then sprayed with machine gun fire. My anti-vaccine, anti-mandate video testimony. Below is my testimony against the COVID vaccine. At one point, I expound on the from fast to feast biblical idea. I just want to add that it was I who started the protesting ministry here at FFZ. What started this was being called into work on one of God's fast days. I complained to the administration that they should not order people to work on a fast day, but they said if I did not show up, I would be fired. It was there that day that it just so happened my boss heard me joking to my friend about how I should dress up as a homeless nurse and protest the mandates at this point because I was so exhausted from all the student debt and being forced to work for barely any money. I would not have made a joke like this if it had not been fasting. I was fired the very next day for making such a joke, and since this has all occurred because of observing one of God's fast days, which is how I feel God has been speaking to me, as you will see from the testimony video, because of this, I feel that God himself has given this ministry his blessing, and that we should continue to protest and spread awareness of what is going on. To date, protesting has been the most successful thing we have done here at FFZ, and getting connected to people who can help us, including lawyers and assembly members, as well as educating the public. I hope you enjoy the following video, and thank you for helping us fight the dragon. May God be with you.